Picture a house that looks like a normal one-story cottage from a street, but hides an entire second floor behind it, completely out of sight. No HOA fights over height. No blocked views for the neighbors. No permit nightmares about changing the look of a historic block. Just a sneaky hump of extra square footage rising up at the back of the house, like a camel hiding its hump until you walk around it. Today we are breaking down the Camelback House, one of the smartest, most underrated ways to nearly double your living space without changing your home's street appeal. And by the end of this video, you will understand exactly how much one of these additions really costs in 2026, what can go wrong structurally if you do it the cheap way, and why this nearly 200-year-old design trick is suddenly popular again with small lot homeowners all over the country. Before we get into it, if you're into smart, affordable ways to get more space out of a small home, hit that subscribe button and tap the bell, because we publish videos like this every single week, and trust me, the cost breakdown later in this video is going to surprise you. So let's start with the basics, because a lot of people hear Camelback and think it is some kind of full second story addition, and it is not quite that simple. A Camelback house is a one-story home, almost always a shotgun-style house, with a partial second floor added on top of the rear portion of the building. From the street, the house looks completely single-story. The front roof line stays low, the porch stays the same, the facade stays untouched. But walk around to the back, or look at it from the side, and suddenly there is this raised section sitting on top of the back half of the house, creating a silhouette that looks a lot like a camel's hump. This style became popular in New Orleans in the mid-1800s, mostly because of how property taxes worked back then. Taxes were often based on the number of stories visible from the street. So homeowners figured out that if the second story was set back far enough that you could not see it from the sidewalk, it would not count against them. Whether or not that loophole was always real or partly urban legend depends on which historian you ask, but either way, the design stuck around because it solved a much bigger problem than taxes ever could. It lets people add real, livable square footage to narrow shotgun lots without messing with the front of the house at all. Now here is where this gets relevant to you. Almost 200 years later, a huge number of older homes in cities across the country sit on narrow lots, usually somewhere between 25 and 40 feet wide. These lots do not leave you much room to expand outward. You cannot really build a wing onto the side of the house because there is no side yard to speak of, and building straight up across the entire footprint often runs into zoning height limits, historic district restrictions, or it just changes the whole look of the house from the curb, which can tank your home's character and sometimes its value too. The Camelback solves all three of those problems at once. Because the addition sits toward the back of the house and is set back from the front facade, it often falls within height allowances that a full second story would not. Because it does not touch the front of the home, historic preservation boards in cities with strict guidelines are often far more open to approving it. And because it is, frankly, just less square footage than a full second floor, it tends to be more cost-effective than a wraparound second story. We will get into exact numbers in a minute, but I want you to hold on to this idea, because it is the entire reason this design has had a resurgence. It is not nostalgia, it is math. Now here is something most videos about Camelback additions completely skip over, and it is honestly the most important part of this whole topic. Most older shotgun houses were never built to carry the weight of a second story. Their foundations, their wall framing, even the way the floor joists are sized and spaced, were all designed for a single-story load. So when someone decides to just plop a second floor on top without addressing what is happening underneath, they can run into serious structural issues. We are talking about sagging floors, cracking walls, foundation settlement, and in some cases, needing to completely rebuild the structural framing from the foundation up before the new addition can even go on top. Stick with us, because in just a bit we're going to break down exactly how contractors handle this problem the right way, what it costs to do it properly versus the corners some people cut, and why skipping this step is the single most expensive mistake homeowners make with Camelback additions. If you're even thinking about doing one of these, this next part could save you tens of thousands of dollars. But first, let's talk about what actually goes into the design of Camelback addition, because there is more strategy here than people realize. In a typical Camelback layout, the original one-story portion of the house, usually the front rooms, stays as is. This is often where you keep your living room, a formal dining area, maybe a home office, and sometimes a half bath tucked under a staircase. The new second story sits above the rear of the house, and this is where most of the new bedrooms and bathrooms tend to go. One of the biggest design trends we're seeing in 2026 is homeowners using that upstairs space to create what is essentially a primary suite oasis, a private retreat with a real walk-in closet and an en-suite bathroom, something a cramped one-story shotgun could almost never fit. Downstairs stays public and social. Upstairs becomes a quiet, modern getaway. And that contrast is a huge part of what makes these renovations feel like such a dramatic upgrade. One detail that comes up again and again in well-designed Camelbacks is the staircase placement. Because the original house was not built with a staircase in mind, architects have to get creative. Sometimes the stairs go into what used to be a back porch or a rear addition that gets demolished and rebuilt. Other times, a section of an existing room gets sacrificed to fit the stairs in, which is why working with someone who understands the original floor plan deeply, not just someone slapping a generic addition on top, makes such a big difference in how livable the final layout feels. Another smart move some designs use is placing the second story setback far enough that it creates a usable rooftop area or small terrace over the part of the first floor that does not get built up. In cities where outdoor space is at a premium, that little rooftop deck can become one of the most used spaces in the entire house. Alright, let's get into the numbers because this is what most of you are really here for. As of 2026, a comprehensive whole home renovation across the country is generally running anywhere from $150,000 to well over $450,000, depending heavily on location, scope, and structural needs. A Camelback addition specifically tends to fall into a wide range because it really depends on three things: how much square footage you are adding, how much structural reinforcement the existing house needs, and where you live. For a modest Camelback addition, adding somewhere around 400 to 600 square feet for 1 or 2 bedrooms and a bathroom, you are looking at a starting point of around $180,000 to $300,000 in most markets in 2026. Why is it that high for what is technically a partial second floor? Because vertical additions are running between $200 and $500 per square foot right now, and you are not just paying for the new rooms, you are paying for the engineering required to hold them up. That baseline climbs incredibly fast if the existing structure needs significant reinforcement, or if you're dealing with strict historic district guidelines. On the higher end, larger Camelback additions with multiple bedrooms, an en-suite bath, vaulted ceilings, and high-end finishes can easily push well past $400,000 total. This is especially true once you factor in the cost of bringing aging plumbing, electrical panels, and HVAC systems up to code to support the new space, which almost always becomes part of the project whether homeowners plan for it or not. Remember how we said most older shotgun houses were not built to hold a second story? Here is how contractors actually deal with that in 2026. In many cases, the approach involves opening up the walls and ceiling on the first floor below where the new second story will sit, then installing new structural framing, things like upgraded floor joists, beams, and sometimes steel reinforcement that can actually carry the load of the addition above. A common technique here is called sistering joists, which means attaching new, stronger framing members directly alongside the old ones so the existing structure gets reinforced rather than fully torn out. The goal across the board is to create continuous load paths down to the foundation, so the weight of that new second story has a clear, engineered route all the way to the ground, instead of resting on framing that was never designed for it. The foundation matters here too. If the original foundation was designed for a single-story load, adding a second story above it can require additional support, sometimes through new footings or piers placed strategically under the load-bearing points of the new structure. This is exactly why getting quotes that seem suspiciously low should make you pause. If a contractor is quoting a Camelback addition without ever opening up the existing structure to assess what is underneath, that is often a sign they are planning to build on top of a foundation and framing system that was never designed to handle it. That might save money up front, but it can lead to sagging floors, cracking drywall, doors that no longer close properly, and in worst-case scenarios, serious safety issues down the road. The honest takeaway here is that a properly executed Camelback addition is not just an addition. It is really two projects in one. It is a structural retrofit of the existing house, plus the new construction on top. Anyone quoting you a price should be accounting for both. So who should actually be considering a Camelback addition in 2026? If you own an older home on a narrow lot, especially in a historic district where exterior changes to the front facade are heavily restricted, this is often one of the only realistic ways to add significant square footage. Growing families who love their neighborhood, their school district, or their walkable location, but have simply outgrown a 1 or 2 bedroom layout are some of the best candidates. It also makes sense for homeowners who want to add a rental unit or an income-generating space without changing the character of the home from the street, since the upstairs addition can sometimes function as a fairly private secondary living area with its own staircase access. On the flip side, if your home already has a full second story, if your lot allows for an easier and cheaper ground floor addition, or if your existing foundation and framing are in rough shape across the entire structure, a Camelback might not be the most cost-effective path, and a different renovation approach could make more sense. At the end of the day, the Camelback House is a great example of old design solving a modern problem. A nearly 200-year-old workaround for property taxes has become, in 2026, one of the smartest ways to add real, functional living space to a small lot home without losing the curb appeal that probably made you fall in love with the house in the first place. If you're considering this kind of addition, the biggest piece of advice we can give you is to find a contractor or architect who treats the existing structure as part of the project, not as something to simply build on top of. That one decision is what separates a Camelback addition that lasts for decades from one that turns into a costly headache a few years down the road. If this video helped you understand Camelback houses a little better, do us a favor and like the video, drop a comment letting us know if you have ever seen one of these in person, and subscribe if you want more honest, research-backed breakdowns of affordable housing designs like this one. We will see you in the next video.